Hello, we are Group 4. So this is the book review about the art of learning, and the person who are going to present is going to be Liu Xiaotong and also Camille Lebrecht. So this is our table of contents. I'm going to principally give you a presentation about the introduction, which is principally about the authors, who is the author, and also the central argument. And then Camille, she's going to talk about key concepts, real-life applicability, limitations, and finally added values. So in the key concept parts, Camille, also and Margarita, and finally Yan, they have all responsible for different parts. Josh Wishkin, he's the author of The Art of Learning. He was recognized as prodigy in playing chess since his early years, and he won the U.S. Junior Chess Championship in 1993 and also 1994. He also holds several U.S. national medals and a 2004 World Champion title in competitive sport of Tai Chi push hands of Taiwan. And finally, in 2008, he published The Art of Learning, discussing learning process and performance psychology drawn from Wishkin's own experiences in both chess and the martial arts. So in his early years, he was a very famous chess player. This is a photo shows in New York Open Tournament in 1987. Josh was only 11 years old, and he won against the chess master Edward Franklin. And when he was 23 years old, he decided to study the martial art of Tai Chi push hands. And only after 2 years, he went to he went to Taiwan and joined a competition and won the title of the world champion. So the core concept is that learning is an art to be perfected for Josh. From this book, Josh clearly showed his attitude that the art of learning is also the art of living. So he literally combines these two key elements.
So this book is divided in 3 parts. The first part he called the foundation. In this first part, he details his personal journey and research on learning methods. So he finds out that there are 2 mentalities of intelligence. The first one is the entity, and the second one is the incremental. The entity shapes intelligence in terms of good or bad, while incremental seeks to look why someone did well or why someone did badly. So the author believes in incremental intelligence because he thinks that entity theory feeds into the illusion of perfection and often lets people crumble under pressure, while the incremental method allows one to focus on building a strong foundation, and it is only through solid foundations that one can progress into mastery. He then details the 3 fundamental components of excellence and intelligence. So, he thinks that these 3 fundamental components can be achieved, and the inability to achieve them can be explained by the existence of distractions, which affect up to 99.9% of people. But if one focuses, one can attain all of them. The first component is to be out of your comfort zone. He asks us to embrace these uncertainties and to learn how to become self-sufficient and cultivate resilience. To not fight uncertainty, but to learn to embrace it, not to deny it, but to actually take advantage of it. The second component is to not focus on short-term goals only. He believes that a first mistake is not a disaster, and that the psychological effects induced are what lead to errors. Each advantage does not have to become a victory for one to be able to learn from it, and it's when you escape this psychological sphere of absolute perfection, also known as reaching all of your certain goals, that you're able to really embrace uncertainty. And in these moments of uncertainty, they can be transformed into moments of inspiration. The third and last component is to continuously leap into the unknown, and we learn best when we push ourselves further than our abilities. When leaping into the unknown, we make mistakes, and we devote ourselves to understanding those mistakes, and we develop intuition. In the second part, he called it the second art because he talks more about his mastery of Tai Chi, and he tries to focus on understanding the underlying essence and energy that we all have, rather than the external manifestations. He believes that growth is a journey, and that in order to achieve excellence, we have to focus on depth over breadth. We have to focus on the micro in order to understand what the macro is going to do. So the path of greatness is to truly and completely master the essential at the deepest level, and consistently refine simple things to the point that they become natural to you, and internalize these feelings. Once you've mastered these things, you can go on to learning more complex things, and this is what he calls learning gradually. Thus, what he believes that growth is a journey. And thirdly, the third part, he brings it all together, and he explains that in his professional life, he has often been bathed in chaos and high-pressure situations and it is through these situations that he was able to understand the deepest levels of his psyche. And at first he explains that such an environment often leaves people looking for ways to numb the pain and the discomfort, or just flee. However, he believes that the essential meaning of such experiences can only be felt when one truly learns how to be at peace with mounting pressure. In this chapter, he explores ways to maintain the tension and thus enable recovery without breaking one's spirit. With this mindset, the author is able to achieve a high threshold for discomfort and thus achieve higher uncertainty. He asks us to bet on ourselves and invest in our losses. He believes that we are able, and he actually explained that he was able to do this by exercising presence through reinforcement. It is the ability to live in the moment and to be clear-headed of all internal issues. And he believes that emotions are often out of control, but when one is able to shift easily between periods of intense stress and concentration to relaxation through daily routine, one is truly able to live life every day at each instant and each moment. And that the sad truth is that if you are not present in the moment, your true love could come and go and you wouldn't even notice, and people just live their life passively, unable to embrace life. He believes that we need to have an appreciation for simplicity in every day, everything that is banal, and it is through the routine that we are able to achieve this. So we looked as a group to real life applicabilities of the concept that we talked about. So someone like Thomas Edison applies the concept of learning from mistakes when inventing the light bulb. He made mistakes and he didn't get it right the first time, but then he continuously did it, and it's only thanks to this that we now have the invention that we have today. Second of all, there's also this aspect of embracing your essence. In his book, he describes many chess masters, and he explains that they are able to bring out each person's most intuitive essence, and that feeds into innovation. Steve Jobs is a recent manager and businessman that has been able to put this into application as well, and is constantly innovative in the field of electronics. And lastly, leaders such as Mark Zuckerberg or Richard Branson have also been able to develop a routine they talk more specifically about reading books or having a sport, which enable them to be present in every moment. So when reading this book, we, however, came across a few limitations, because resilience makes sense in theory, but it's actually really hard to apply in real life. When you're disappointed, it's very hard to get back on your feet and continue to believe that you're worth something. And we believe that the author sometimes neglects the circumstances and the elements that are out of one's control. Lastly, as a group, we really liked this book. We thought that it was a very interesting view into the minds of high-performing people. Margarita and Xiaotong really appreciated this idea that knowledge is something that is nuanced, and that it is very important to understand how we think in order to be able to apply it to our real life. And Jan also believed that this book taught him very valuable lessons, and we believe in general as a group that this book will enable us to be better managers in the future. Thank you very much for listening.